The ground shook as another explosion lit up the purple sky of planet D-147. Tom Reed pressed himself deeper into the muddy trench, his medical kit clutched tightly against his chest. 3 years into Earth's first interstellar war, and the fighting had only gotten worse. He peeked over the trench's edge, watching the massive forms of the Grey Legion moving through the smoke. Their huge bodies, easily 9 feet tall, cast long shadows in the dim light. The aliens looked like ancient warriors stepped out of humanity's darkest legends, with their thick gray skin and powerful builds. "Medic. We need a medic here." The cry came from his left. Tom didn't hesitate. He scrambled out of his position and ran in a crouch toward the voice. His boots splashed through puddles of muddy water as he made his way to a group of soldiers huddled behind a broken wall. A young private lay there, clutching his leg. "Hold still," Tom said, pulling out his supplies. "Just a plasma graze. You'll be fine." As he worked, the sound of battle grew closer. The Grey Legion was pushing forward again. They always pushed forward. That's what made them so terrifying. They never seemed to stop, never seemed to tire. "Thanks, Doc," the private said as Tom finished the bandage. "You better get to cover. They're coming." Tom nodded and turned to leave, but a new explosion knocked him off his feet. He tumbled down a slope, his medical kit spilling open. When he stopped rolling, he found himself in a deep crater, hidden from the battle above. That's when he heard it, a deep, rumbling sound, a groan of pain. In the crater's shadow lay one of them, a Grey Legion warrior, easily twice Tom's size, with a serious wound in its side. The alien's eyes opened. They were a startling shade of gold, and fixed on Tom. Every human instinct told him to run. Every military regulation demanded he either capture or eliminate the enemy. But something made him pause. Maybe it was the way the warrior's hand wasn't reaching for its weapon. Maybe it was the medic in him, trained to help those in pain. The alien made another sound, and Tom saw it was trying to reach something. A small device attached to its armor, probably a medical kit of their own. The warrior's fingers couldn't quite grasp it. Tom took a deep breath. 3 years of war propaganda told him these creatures were mindless killing machines. 3 years of battlefield reports painted them as monsters. But right now, all he saw was a wounded being in pain. He stepped forward slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. The warrior watched him, those golden eyes tracking every movement. Tom pointed to his own medical kit, then to the warrior's wound. For a long moment, neither moved. Above them, the battle raged on, but in this crater, time seemed to stand still. Then, slowly, the warrior nodded. Tom approached carefully. Up close, the alien was even more impressive. Its gray skin had a slight metallic sheen, and patterns of darker gray marked its face and arms. The wound was bad, some kind of explosive damage, but not beyond help. As Tom began to clean the injury, he noticed something surprising. The warrior's medical kit, once he helped retrieve it, contained items similar to his own. Different shapes, different materials, but serving the same purpose: healing. The warrior watched as Tom combined their medical supplies, using both human and alien technology to treat the wound. When Tom finished, the alien reached out and gently touched its own chest, then pointed to Tom's medical insignia. A gesture of recognition, of respect. Tom found himself smiling. In that moment, something profound changed. This wasn't just an alien anymore. This wasn't the enemy. This was someone who, like him, understood the value of helping others. A distant explosion reminded them both that the war was still raging. Tom knew he had to make a choice: report the wounded warrior, help them escape. His training said one thing, but his conscience said another. The warrior seemed to sense his conflict. It reached out again, this time offering something: a small communication device, a choice, a chance. Tom took it. Above them, the battle for planet D-147 continued. But in that crater, A different kind of victory had been won. A victory not of weapons or armies, but of simple human compassion. The war would never be the same. The next 3 days tested every bit of Tom's ingenuity. He had found a small cave near the crater to hide the wounded warrior, using broken equipment and camouflage nets to conceal the entrance. It wasn't easy sneaking away from his unit, but as a medic, he had more freedom to move around than most. The warrior was learning to communicate with him through simple gestures. During one of their meetings, the alien pointed to itself and made a sound like rocks falling. Kirk thud. Tom took this to mean stone and began using it as the warrior's name. "I'm Tom," he said, pointing to himself. Stone repeated the word carefully, the sound strange but clear from their massive throat. As Tom changed Stone's bandages that evening, the warrior pulled out a small device, a translator that had been damaged in the battle. Together, they worked on fixing it, Stone guiding Tom's smaller hands to make the delicate repairs. Finally, it crackled to life. "Your help, unexpected." Stone's words came through broken but understandable. "Why?" Tom thought carefully before answering. "Because you needed help. That's what medics do." The translator hummed as it processed his words. Stone's golden eyes widened at the response. "Your kind. We were told you only destroy. That you attacked first." Tom shook his head. "We were told the same about you. That you attacked our colonies without warning." Stone sat up straighter, wincing slightly at the movement. "First contact. Your ships entered sacred space. We sent warning signals. Your ships fired." "Warning signals?" Tom frowned. "Our ships reported receiving threat messages, demands to surrender." Stone's expression changed to what Tom was learning to recognize as surprise. The warrior pulled out another device, this one showing holographic text. "Our greeting," Stone explained. "Traditional words of peace, but your machines, they changed the meaning." Tom leaned closer, fascinated. The original message was complex, full of ceremonial language about borders and respect. He could see how a basic translation program might have turned it into something threatening. "A translation error," Tom said quietly. "We've been fighting for 3 years because of a translation error." Stone nodded solemnly. "Many dead, both sides, because we could not talk, could not understand." The weight of this revelation hit Tom hard. He sat down on a nearby rock, thinking of all the casualties he treated, all the lives lost on both sides. "Your healing ways," Stone continued, gesturing to Tom's medical kit. "They are like our own. We value the healers most among our warriors. They bridge the gaps between clans, bring peace." Tom looked at his medical insignia, then at Stone's similar marking. "Maybe that's why we were able to connect. Healers understand each other." Stone attempted what Tom now recognized as a smile, a slight lifting of their facial plates. "You are wise, small one." Tom couldn't help but laugh at that. "And you're not as scary as they said you'd be, big one." Their moment of understanding was interrupted by distant explosions. The fighting was moving closer. "We must tell others," Stone said urgently. "Stop this waste of life." Tom nodded, but his expression was worried. "It won't be easy. There are many who want this war to continue, who won't believe it was all a mistake." Stone reached out, placing one massive hand gently on Tom's shoulder. "Then we start small, like healing wound. First clean, then mend, then strengthen." Tom looked up at his alien friend. And yes, he realized that's what Stone had become. A friend. One connection at a time. One bridge at a time. Stone agreed. "You built first bridge, Healer Tom. Now we build more." As night fell over the battlefield, human and alien sat together in their hidden cave, planning how to heal not just wounds of the body, but wounds between their peoples. Outside, the war raged on, but inside this small space, peace had already begun. Over the next week, Tom learned more about the Grey Legion than any human intelligence report had ever revealed. During his daily visits to tend Stone's wound, The giant warrior shared stories of their people, painting a picture very different from what humans believed. "Our children," Stone explained one evening, using the now repaired translator, "learn healing before fighting. Every warrior must save 10 lives before they can take one." Tom sat cross-legged on the cave floor, drinking from his canteen. "But your army seems so aggressive, always attacking." Stone made a rumbling sound that Tom now knew was laughter. "What you see as attack, we see as defense. We move forward to protect, not destroy, like your white blood cells fighting infection." The medical comparison made Tom smile. He was discovering that Stone had a way of explaining things through healing metaphors. "Tell me about your cities," Tom asked, checking Stone's healing wound. The alien tissue was knitting together remarkably fast, thanks to their combined medical techniques. Stone's golden eyes brightened. Using their communication device, they projected a small hologram showing towering crystal structures that seemed to grow from the ground like trees. "Our homes rise with us," Stone explained. "Buildings grow as families grow. When young ones reach teaching age, they add their own crystal to the family tower." The warrior's voice carried pride. "My tower holds memories of 15 generations of healers." Tom watched, fascinated, as the hologram showed Grey Legion children, still larger than adult humans, learning to tend gardens of strange, glowing plants. "Those are medical herbs." "Yes, each warrior healer grows their own medicines. The strongest warriors are those who can make life flourish on barren worlds." Stone paused, looking troubled. "Many of our greatest healing gardens have been destroyed in this war." Tom felt a pang of guilt, thinking of the orbital bombardments that had scorched entire continents. "We didn't know. We thought they were weapon factories." "Your people have much courage," Stone said kindly, seeing Tom's distress. "But you fear too quickly what you do not understand. Like my people, you strike first to protect yourselves." A distant explosion made them both look toward the cave entrance. The fighting had moved closer over the past days. "How did you become a healer?" Tom asked, trying to distract himself from the sounds of battle. Stone touched a pattern of darker gray marks on their arm. "These tell my healing story. Each mark, a life saved, even enemies." The warrior looked meaningfully at Tom. "We believe all life is connected. To heal an enemy is to heal a part of ourselves." Tom thought about his own journey, the years of medical training, his choice to join the military as a medic. "We have a similar saying on Earth. First, do no harm." "Wise words," Stone nodded. "Perhaps our peoples are not so different after all." Their conversation was interrupted by footsteps near the cave entrance. Tom quickly doused their small light as human voices approached. "I saw something over here," a voice said. "Probably just radiation playing tricks again," another answered. Tom held his breath. Stone remained perfectly still, their massive form blending surprisingly well with the cave's shadows. After what seemed like hours, the patrol moved on. Tom let out a shaky breath. "They are looking for me," Stone said quietly. "My people must also be searching." "Your wound is almost healed," Tom replied. "Maybe it's time we did something more than hide." Stone looked at him curiously. "What do you suggest, small healer?" Tom pulled out a data pad he'd been using to record their conversations. "We have proof here. About the translation error, about your people's true nature. Maybe it's time to show others what we've learned." The warrior was quiet for a long moment. "Such action would be dangerous. For both of us." "Most healing is dangerous," Tom said, using one of Stone's own sayings. "But necessary." Stone's facial plates shifted into their version of a smile. "You speak like a Grey Legion warrior now, Tom." Outside, the war continued its destructive course. But in that hidden cave, understanding had grown into something stronger than fear, and two unlikely friends prepared to take their first steps toward a larger peace. The morning started like any other. Tom gathered his medical supplies, told his unit he was going to look for herbs in the safer zones, and made his way to the cave. But something felt wrong. The air was too quiet, the battlefield too still. He noticed the boot prints too late. "Don't move. Read." The voice came from behind him. Captain Mills stepped out from behind a broken wall, weapon raised, hands where I can see them. Tom's medical bag dropped to the ground. More soldiers emerged from hiding spots, their rifles aimed at him. Among them stood Private Rogers, the young soldier whose leg Tom had treated days ago. Rogers couldn't meet his eyes. "You followed me," Tom said quietly. "For 3 days," Mills confirmed. Rogers here reported suspicious behavior, multiple trips to the same location, missing medical supplies. The captain's face hardened. "We thought you were stealing morphine. Never imagined you were committing treason." A sound from the cave made everyone turn. Stone emerged, ducking under the low entrance, golden eyes taking in the situation. The human soldiers stepped back in fear, their weapons shaking. "Don't shoot." Tom moved to stand between them. "Please, it's not what you think." "Not what we think." Mills spat the words. "You're harboring the enemy, sharing medical supplies. What else have you shared with it? Military secrets, base locations." Stone remained still, hands open to show they carried no weapons. "Your soldier speaks truth. We mean no harm." Several soldiers jumped at the translated voice. Rogers finally spoke up, his voice shaking. It can talk." "They all can," Tom said desperately. "The war, it started because of a mistake. A translation error. We have proof." Silence. Mills barked. 2 soldiers moved forward to grab Tom's arms. "Secure the alien. Command will want to interrogate it." Stone could have fought. Even wounded, the giant warrior could have taken down several humans before being stopped. But they remained peaceful, allowing the nervous soldiers to approach. "No," Tom struggled against his captors. "You don't understand. Stone is a healer, like me. They've been teaching me about their medicine, their culture. We can stop this war." "Stone." Mills laughed bitterly. "You even named it. Take them both to base. Separate cells." As they led them away, Tom saw movement in the hills. Gray shapes moving through the morning mist. The Gray Legion had found them too. "More coming," a soldier shouted, pointing at the approaching figures. Stone spoke quickly through the translator. "My people will attack to free me. There will be deaths. Unnecessary deaths. Then they'll die too." Mills raised his rifle. "Wait." Tom broke free from his captors, pulling out his data pad. "Just look at this first. Please, look at what we discovered. About first contact, about why the war started." A massive Gray Legion warrior appeared on the ridge above them, weapon ready. Then another, and another. They had seconds before blood would be shed. "Captain," Rogers spoke up. Maybe we should look." Mills glanced between the pad and the approaching warriors. Stone called out something in their language, and the Gray Legion troops stopped advancing, but held their positions. 2 minutes, Mills growled, taking the pad. Tom watched the captain's face as he read. Other soldiers crowded around, looking at the evidence of the tragic mistake that had started the war. The original greeting message. The failed translation. The proof that both sides had acted on false information. "This," Mills looked up at Stone, then at the waiting warriors. "This can't be real." "Test us," Stone said simply. "Ask your best language experts to examine the original message. Ask your leaders why they never attempted further communication." A tense silence fell over the group. Above them, the Gray Legion warriors remained still, waiting. Below, human soldiers looked to their captain, fingers on triggers. Mills finally lowered his weapon. "Stand down," he ordered his men. "Stand down and call command. Tell them." He looked at Tom and Stone with a mix of confusion and dawning understanding. "Tell them we need a linguistics expert and a senior medical officer." Tom felt the hands restraining him loosen, but he knew this wasn't over. They had avoided bloodshed for the moment. But the real battle, The battle for truth was just beginning. 3 days later, Tom found himself in a situation he never imagined. Standing before a joint meeting of human and Grey Legion leaders in a hastily constructed neutral zone. The meeting tent was large enough to accommodate both species, with the 9-foot-tall Grey Legion members on one side and the humans on the other. Stone stood beside him, their massive presence reassuring. Both of them were technically prisoners, but they were prisoners who had started something too big to stop. "This is a waste of time," General Harris growled from the human side. These two could have fabricated all of this evidence. The Grey Legion war chief, whose name translated roughly to mountain, rumbled something that the improved translation system rendered as, "My warriors say the same. How can we trust these two?" Tom stepped forward, his heart pounding but his voice steady. "Then bring your own experts. Check the original transmission logs. Verify everything we've shown you." Stone moved to stand beside him. "Our healing towers hold records of the first contact. The original greeting messages. Let your language experts study them." The room erupted in arguments. Human officers shouted about security risks. Grey Legion warriors boomed objections about sacred places. The translators struggled to keep up with all the angry voices. Then something unexpected happened. A young human linguist who had been quietly studying the data stood up. "They're right." Her voice cut through the chaos. "I've been analyzing the original Grey Legion greeting. It's not a threat message at all. It's beautiful, actually." She projected the message, showing the complex patterns of the alien language. "See these symbols? Our early translation programs read them as aggressive because they're similar to warning signs. But in context, they're marks of respect, of peace." A Grey Legion language expert moved closer, ducking their huge head to examine the humans' work. After a moment, they straightened and spoke to their leaders. "The human speaks truth," the translator conveyed. "Their response to our greeting, which we took as an attack threat, was also misunderstood. They were trying to show peaceful intentions too." The room grew quiet. 3 years of war, countless lives lost, worlds scared, all because two species couldn't properly say hello. General Harris broke the silence. "Even if this is true, how can we trust each other now? After everything that's happened?" Tom looked at Stone, who nodded encouragingly. He pulled out his medical kit and walked to the center of the room. "The same way I learned to trust Stone," he said. "Through this." He opened the kit, showing how he had combined human and Grey Legion medical supplies. "Their healing technology works perfectly with ours, because medicine doesn't care what species you are. Healing is healing." Stone joined him, showing their own medical tools. "Your small healer saved my life using our combined knowledge. Many more could be saved. Many could learn." The Grey Legion war chief leaned forward. "You treated one of our warriors with your medicine." "Yes," Tom replied. "And Stone taught me about Grey Legion healing herbs. Together we found treatments work better than either alone." A human medical officer stepped forward to examine the combined supplies. Her eyes widened. "These combinations, they could revolutionize our emergency care, save countless lives." More experts from both sides began gathering around the medical supplies. The tension in the room shifted from hostile to curious. Questions about medical techniques replaced arguments about military strategy. General Harris and War Chief Mountain watched their people mixing together, sharing knowledge. "Perhaps," Mountain said slowly, "we should establish a joint medical research program, as a test of cooperation." Harris nodded thoughtfully. "Neutral ground. Equal numbers from both sides. Start small and see where it leads." Tom felt Stone's hand rest gently on his shoulder. They had done it. Created a crack in the wall of hatred. A small crack, but sometimes that's all healing needs to begin. "Small bridges," Stone said quietly in their rumbling voice. "Small bridges," Tom agreed, watching humans and Grey Legion together for the first time, not as enemies, but as people who had something to learn from each other. The war wasn't over yet, but its days were numbered. Understanding had taken root, and understanding, like healing, would spread. 1 month after the historic meeting, Tom stood in front of the first Joint Medical Research Center. The building was a marvel of combined architecture, human steel and glass, merged with Grey Legion crystal structures. It rose from the neutral planet's surface like a symbol of hope, its medical cross and Grey Legion healing symbol displayed side by side. "Still hard to believe it's real," Stone said, standing beside him. The giant warrior wore the new insignia they had created, a combined human Grey Legion medical corps badge. Tom smiled. "Remember when we were hiding in that cave? Feels like years ago." "Many still hide in caves of hatred," Stone replied wisely. "Our work only beginning." They walked into the center together. Inside, human and Grey Legion medical teams worked side by side. Some humans had even learned to use the tall stools that let them work at Grey Legion height, while Grey Legion healers had specially made tools for handling smaller human equipment. "Emergency call coming in," a voice announced over the speakers in both languages. "Mining accident in Sector 7. Multiple injuries, both species." Tom and Stone moved quickly to the emergency response area. This would be the first real test of their combined medical teams. "Ready?" Tom asked, grabbing his enhanced medical kit, now a mixture of both worlds' healing technology. Stone nodded, ducking through the specially designed doorway. Always ready to heal. They boarded the medical transport, another piece of combined technology, human speed with Grey Legion stability. As they flew toward the accident site, Tom remembered the early days of the peace process, just 2 weeks ago. The first combined patrol had been a disaster. Human soldiers had flinched every time a Grey Legion warrior moved too quickly. Grey Legion troops had accidentally scared 3 human medics just by trying to help them carry supplies. "This isn't working," Captain Mills had said, watching another awkward interaction. But Tom and Stone had an idea. They gathered everyone together and started with the basics, teaching each other's medical hand signals. "See," Tom had demonstrated. "When they raise their hand like this, it means they need supplies, not that they're about to attack." Stone had added, "When small humans duck down, they are not hiding weapons. They are checking ground for healing nerves." Slowly, understanding grew. Soldiers who had been shooting at each other weeks before were now learning to work together, starting with the simple things they had in common, the desire to help others. The transport landed at the mining site, bringing Tom back to the present. The scene was chaotic. A tunnel collapse had trapped workers from both species. "Human team, take the west entrance," Tom directed. "Grey Legion team, east side. Combined teams in the center." Stone organized the larger medical supplies while Tom coordinated the smaller emergency kits. They had practiced this, but this was the first real emergency. The rescue operation showed how far they'd come. Human medics used Grey Legion strength to move debris. Grey Legion healers used human medical scanners to locate trapped miners. Their different sizes and abilities became advantages instead of obstacles. "Found them." A human medic called out. 2 humans and a Grey Legion worker. "They're alive." Tom and Stone led the rescue effort together. The tight space meant Tom had to handle the initial treatment while Stone passed supplies and guided the other rescuers. Hours later, all miners were saved. The combined medical teams had worked perfectly together. "See," Stone said, watching humans and Grey Legion share water and rest together after the rescue. "Bridges build themselves when needed." Tom nodded, tired but happy. Because in an emergency, nobody cares what species the helping hand belongs to. A group of human children had gathered to watch the rescue teams, their eyes wide at the sight of Grey Legion warriors gently helping injured humans. One small girl waved at Stone, who waved back carefully with their massive hand. "Next generation," Stone observed. "They will not know fear we knew." "No," Tom agreed. "They'll know something better. They'll know what's possible when we work together." As they packed up their supplies, more emergency calls came in. The work would never end. But now they faced it together. Every healing was another bridge, every saved life, another step toward lasting peace. 5 years had passed since that first meeting in a battlefield crater. Tom stood at the podium of the Interspecies Medical Academy, looking out at the graduating class. Rows of human and Grey Legion medical students sat together, their different sizes no longer seeming strange to anyone. Stone stood beside him, wearing the ceremonial robes of a Grey Legion master healer, the fabric shimmering with embedded healing crystals. They had both come far from their days as battlefield medics. Today, Tom began, his voice carried by translators throughout the hall, we celebrate not just new healers, but a new way of seeing each other. Stone stepped forward, their golden eyes scanning the audience. 5 years ago, one small human dared to help one wounded warrior. Today, we have 5,000 combined medical teams across 20 worlds. The audience cheered in both human and Grey Legion ways, clapping mixed with the deep, rhythmic rumbling that showed Grey Legion approval. In the front row, Captain Mills, now Director Mills of Interspecies Relations, nodded proudly. Besides him sat War Chief Mountain, who had become one of their strongest supporters. Remember, Tom continued, healing knows no borders. Pain speaks all languages, and compassion needs no translation. A holographic display activated behind them, showing images from the past 5 years. Human doctors working in Grey Legion healing towers, Grey Legion healers helping in human hospitals, combined teams responding to natural disasters on colony worlds. But most important, Stone added, remember the lesson we learned in war. Sometimes the bravest thing is to reach out to those we fear, to see the person behind the difference. As they spoke, the newest medical innovation was being unveiled in hospitals across both territories, healing pods that combined human biochemistry knowledge with Grey Legion crystal technology. They could treat injuries that neither species could heal alone. Tom picked up a ceremonial medical kit, designed to be used by both species, and held it high. When you leave here today, you carry more than medical supplies. You carry the proof that understanding is possible, that fear can be overcome. Stone lifted their massive hand, showing the marks of healing that now covered their arm. Each life you save, each wound you heal, builds another bridge, makes another connection. Together, they began calling graduates forward. Each student received their kit and certification from both instructors. Humans had to reach up while Grey Legion students had to bend down, but no one minded anymore. These small adjustments had become natural. After the ceremony, Tom and Stone walked through the Academy's gardens, where healing plants from both worlds grew together. Medical students studied among the beds of mixed herbs, learning from both traditions. Remember when you first found me? Stone asked, touching a crystal flower that grew entwined with earth roses. Tom laughed. I was terrified. Thought you were going to eat me. I thought you would shoot me, Stone rumbled in amusement. Instead, you taught me human bandages. I taught you crystal healing. They stopped at a new memorial, a statue showing a human medic treating a Grey Legion warrior. Their story had become legend, taught in schools across both territories, as the moment peace became possible. Did you ever imagine this? Tom asked, gesturing at the thriving academy around them. Stone shook their massive head. No, but I imagined something better might be possible. When you offered help instead of harm. A group of mixed-species children ran past, playing some game they had invented that used both human agility and Grey Legion strength. They were the first generation growing up without the shadow of war, seeing nothing strange about 9-foot-tall friends. Next week, Tom said, checking his medical tablet, we opened the first deep space medical ship. Combined crew, combined mission. Exploring together, Stone nodded, finding new ways to heal, new people to understand. As the sun set, one Earth-like yellow, one local purple, their shadows stretched across the academy grounds. A small human and a giant alien, no longer enemies or even just friends, but something more. Proof that difference need not mean division. In the end, it had taken just one human soldier daring to connect with a 9-foot alien giant to show both species a simple truth. The greatest healing of all is the healing of understanding. And that was just the beginning.